Well, support for an Indigenous voice to Parliament has fallen dramatically, according to a poll published in the Sydney Morning Herald today. The Resolve survey asked 1,610 people if they had to make a decision today, yes or no, which way would they vote on the voice, and only 53% of people said they would vote yes. That's down from 58% a month ago and 64% last September. According to Resolve Director Jim Reid, if that trend continues, support for an Indigenous voice to Parliament would be in the minority by August. The vote is scheduled for October, November. So, Liz, Caleb, is Anthony Albanese losing his voice?
It looks like it. And I think this is a natural progression as the truth of the reality of what this will mean is slowly eking out. I think the states are actually doing this vote a massive disservice by charging ahead with their own treaties. We saw South Australia get out in front when they passed their own voice to Parliament, a state version. Queensland went ahead and inked their legislation. You've got the relevant minister up there literally saying nothing's off the table for these treaties. There's 150 Indigenous bodies. Each of them can have a treaty. They're going to cost millions apiece. People are waking up to what this is actually going to mean, and the fact that this isn't just a vibe. In fact, here we have the federal government finally levelling with the Australian people today regarding what it's actually all about.
I want money. That's what I want.
That's what people are waking up to. They're realising this is going to cost us. And that's not just the millions of dollars the referendum itself, which nobody asked for, well, a handful of people want, are going to cost the taxpayers. And especially at a time when everyone's just bleeding through every orifice trying to make ends meet, the average middle Australian, it's simply not a welcome prospect.
It's interesting you mentioned South Australia and Queensland, the two states that are talking about treaties, particularly at the moment, because according to that poll, Caleb, support in Queensland is now under 50%, and in South Australia it's quite volatile, apparently.
Yeah, it's reduced quite a bit. I mean, there was some polling a couple of months ago showing that South Australia had the highest support for the voice in the country, but since they've introduced their own voice, that's gone in various polls from somewhere around 60% down to 51%. It has been a bit all over the shop. But you say, Albo, I say as I'm about to lose my voice, he risks losing his voice. More than he risks losing his voice, he risks losing his prime ministership, because he has staked everything on this referendum. And if this fails, he's cooked as PM, he can't go on. The cause of reconciliation is cooked because he's banked literally everything on this. If he was a gentleman, he'd realise that this is likely to fail and he'd withdraw it. But the problem is that that would also cost his prime ministership. He's going to go down with the sinking ship. I just can't see, on the basis of these numbers, how the Yes campaign recovers from this, because it's not going to go further in their direction from this point. So all they can possibly do is sandbag and hope to retain what they've got. But history will show you in any referendum that's been held in this country that generally you start out with a high point of support and then it dwindles as time goes on because people finally get exposed to the No campaign. And there's a lot of time left for the No campaign to go out there and sway votes.
Well, you know, another interesting thing that Jim Reid from Resolve said today was that the Yes campaign ad is actually making people withdraw support, because he said they're promoting constitutional recognition, but they're not talking about the voice. And he made the comment, people are wondering, why aren't you talking about the product you're trying to sell?
Indeed.
That makes us suspicious.
And that's why I think ultimately it will fall over. We know the government and no one within the campaign actually wants to tell you what it's all about. And from the very beginning, they've been tying it to constitutional recognition because that was meant to be the Trojan horse.